Morning, students. Last class completed systems of railway electrification. Okay. Now, this class we are going to discuss about comparison between the DC traction and AC traction. Otherwise, the difference between DC traction and AC traction. Okay. Now, first one comparison in DC traction. DC series motors develop high starting and running torques. High starting and high running torque. Whereas AC traction. In AC trains, starting and running torques developed by AC motors. Developed by AC motors. Okay. The comparison totally will be take out as an for the consideration of an starting and running torque. The first comparison. The next going to be second one. A number of speeds obtained by DC motor is limited. Number of speeds obtained by DC motor is limited except by super method. Now coming to an AC traction. Number of speeds obtained by the tap changing methods. Tap changing methods. The next comparison, the DC series motors are cheap. DC series motors are cheap, light and more efficient. These are motors are cheap, light and more efficient. Whereas in case of an AC motors are somewhat expensive then compared to that of an DC motor. The cost is high compared to DC motors and less efficient. The next point, in case of a DC, the overhead distribution is lighter, less costly as the losses. In case of the overhead distribution is heavy, thus expensive. The next comparison, DC system produce less interference with communication. AC system produce more interference with communication. More interference with the communication. DC whereas less and AC has an high communication. Next one. For a given length of a track, the number of substations required is more as voltage above prescribed substations. So during that traveling from train one area to another area, during that between the stations is required is more as voltage as prescribed. Whereas the quite opposite term is that here it is then voltage prescribed is more, now here it is that in AC is less. For a given length of a track, the number of substations required is less the voltage above prescribed. Okay, voltage levels కంటే ఎక్కువేమో DC traction. If it is then let's say AC traction. Okay, very very important point in our objective points also. It is a important one. Okay, and next one, the last comparison. DC motors requires less maintenance. DC motors are less maintenance. Now here maintenance is less, automatically the cost also less. Already this point is discussed in first one. Okay, next, AC motors requires more maintenance. So obviously motor cost is high, then similarly maintenance also should be high. Okay, and this is the complete comparison about and AC traction. Okay, thank you.